Begin. So, should we have you both on the screen or just Rav Michael?
Yes, or
What,
whatever.
Rav Michael, are you beginning?
We can.
Yes? Or start together, whatever you want. Please, Bivakasha. We're very excited to have you both, and Bezat Hashem will learn a lot together. Bivakasha.
Okay, I can start because I have to end exactly at exactly at 8:30. So if you can you put up the sources? Okay, so uh, of course we're talking about the general principles in studying Torah, and this is. This is something which we concentrate on here for preparing for Shavuot, where we celebrate the time when we received the Torah in Mount Sinai. All of the Jewish people, all of those who were there then, and all of those who are to come in future generations, um, including even also those who later converted to Judaism. Everybody, everybody somehow had a part of the Torah, and I wanted to talk about a few ideas about how do we study Torah? What is important when we study Torah? And there is a whole section of Maimonides of the Rambam who says how we should study Torah. So I start with two principles in two of the rules of the Rambam, which which we read. One is principle uh, which says the following: if the teacher taught something, he taught a concept, and the students did not fully understand it, didn't grasp it, he should not be upset with that and not be angry. Rather, he should repeat and review and go over it again, maybe explain it in a different way. And even if he has to do it several times, many times, until the students understand what we're talking about, the depth of the halakha, of the law, of the exposure, what the teacher is teaching, and he has to repeat himself again and again and again. Um, and and this goes for the teacher, but this is also on the side of the students. The students should not say, "I understand," because he he's maybe embarrassed that he doesn't understand. No, rather he should ask again and again, even if he requires a lot of repetitions. And if his teacher becomes upset with him and displays anger, he should tell him, "My teacher, this is the Torah, uh, and I have to study, and maybe I don't understand so well, but I have to study. I have to know. I'm here in order to learn. So you have to be patient with me." And uh, and we know of a story of a rabbi in the Talmud who was taught the student 400 times, which is quite a lot of times. But that was what it took, and until the student understood. So this is how we look at this. But there is a continuation. Uh, this is the next piece. A student should not be embarrassed because his friends understood this the first time or the second time, while he did not understand it until it was repeated many more times. If he's embarrassed of such matters, he will find himself uh, sitting in the class, in the study house, in the yeshiva, in the Bet Midrash, Nordic Bet Midrash. He will find himself sitting there. It's a little difficult when you do it on Zoom. It's a little more difficult, but he will just not have learned anything. Um, and this is a principle which our sages says the Rambam. He brings a quotation from Pirkei Avot, from the sage, from the Mishnah of Avot, of our sages, which we've also studied in the Bet Midrash, where it says in this Mishnah. Um, uh, uh, a bashful person, somebody who's shy, who's not willing to ask questions, will never learn anything. And somebody who's short-tempered, a teacher who's short-tempered, he should not be teaching. But the Rambam adds something to this. When does this apply? When the student did not understand the subject matter because of its depth or because of their limited powers of comprehension. However, if it appears to the teacher that they're not applying themselves to the words of the Torah, or they're lazy about it, and therefore do not understand, then the teacher can be angry. And then he can shame them also with these words in order to sharpen their powers of concentration. In this context, our sages said, cast fear to the students. There already, it's a different situation. If the students are there and it's not that they are trying to understand, but it's just that they're lazy. They don't bother to listen. Then you're allowed to be sharp, and you're allowed to be to also be sharp in relation to the student, and in order to sharpen their concentration. Therefore, it is not fitting for a teacher to act frivolously in the presence of his student. The teacher must also behave himself in order to be on this high standard. He should not amuse himself in their presence, nor should he eat or drink with them. These restrictions are intended so that they fear him and study under him at a fast pace, that there is a respect for the teacher, that if the teacher wants respect for the Torah of the students, then they have to have respect for him, and he cannot just sit and eat and drink and sit and joke instead of taking things seriously. This is the Rambam. Now I have for you a couple of examples
Hello?
where from the Talmud.
From the Talmud.
There was a clip over here. And the Talmud has some interesting stories which I would like to share with you. There are very, very many stories in the Talmud. Now, there was one rabbi who was not from the Tanaim. He was the first generation of the Amoraim. He wasn't, that is, he was the first generation of those who was not the Mishnah teachers, not from the first 200 years after Common Era, but he was right after Rabbi Yehuda Nasi uh, finished the Mishnah, and he was a very, very big teacher. He was called Rabbi Yochanan, and he was known all over the Talmud. We know him for somebody who got lots and lots of questions, and he liked having questions, and he liked being challenged. And we'll see two stories about him. Rabbi Yochanan sat and taught. What was he teaching? He was teaching that the Holy One, blessed be He, is destined to bring precious stones and jewels that are 30 by 30 cubits, that will bore in them an opening 10 cubits wide by 20 cubits in height, and place them to serve at the gates of Jerusalem. So, what is this? In the future, when we will see Messianic times, then God will bring enormous jewels who will be so big, one jewel will be so big that it will be this size, which you see here. There'll be a hole in the jewel, which is of this size, which you read here. It's a phenomenal size of a jewel, and he explains also why this is so, and he quotes a quotation from the prophet Isaiah: "I will make your pinnacles of rubies and your gates of carbuncles." That this is this is how the entrance to Jerusalem, not the temple. This is the gates of Jerusalem. How beautiful it will be with the most wonderful, largest rubies that you can think of at all. This is how it will be in the future. And there was a certain student, and he mocked him. And he said, but he didn't say it out loud, apparently. He says, now, at this time, it's impossible to find rubies or precious stones or diamonds or whatever comparable in size to the egg of a palm dove. Which is much, much smaller, of course. How does anybody at all think that you can find stones as large as those that you described? And that's ridiculous. The whole concept which you bring us, the quotation, it's ridiculous. And notice the word which the student mocked him. In any case, this student, he went off sailing at the sea. And while he was sailing, he saw angels. And what were these angels doing? They were cutting precious stones on this side. And he said to the angels, for whom are these stones? The angel said to him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, is destined to place them in the future at the gates of Jerusalem. Wow, that was something. This was what he saw out in the sea. So when the student returned, he found Rabbi Yochanan, who was, as usual, always sitting in the study house and teaching. Now the student went over to him and he said, my teacher, now he's respectful, my teacher, teach. And it is fitting for you to teach. You're a really good teacher. Just as you said with regard to the precious stones, so I saw what you were teaching. I actually saw that it was true, what you were teaching. You're a really good teacher. And what did Rabbi Yochanan say to him? He said, good for nothing. If you hadn't seen it, you would not believe it. You are one who mocks the statements of the sages. And Rabbi Yochanan directed his eyes towards him in anger and rendered him a pile of bones. This is a little dramatic ending of this story. I don't know how much you have to take that literally, but the point of the story of this Agadah, this story from the Talmud, is very, very clear. What was the sin? What was the big problem with what this student did? I would say the following. The problem was not that he had difficulty with the description of Rabbi Yochanan and what was to happen, but he didn't ask a question. If he had difficulty in saying, wow, we know that today there are only stones which are this and this size, how can that be in the future that there will be such enormous stones? So Rabbi Yochanan would have understood that question and would have answered the question. But that's not what he did. He didn't ask a question. He didn't try but he mocked him. He mocked him. He didn't, I don't know if he mocked him again. I don't know if he said it out loud or if he mocked him amongst the other students or just inside himself. But he didn't challenge Rabbi Yochanan in a question, in a respectful way. And that's not a way to study Torah. It's not a way to broaden your knowledge of Torah. And just as the Rambam said, this is not how we do it. This is not how we do it. And therefore, even when he came back and he said, oh, now I know that you are right, that's not what Rabbi Yochanan wants. He doesn't want somebody to come and tell him that he's right. He knows that he's right. That's not he doesn't mind that he's questioned, that he's challenged. He's questioned all over, but he and therefore there's no point in that kind of Torah. That's not the Torah we want. We want a Torah which is questioned, which is challenged, which is serious, taken serious, which is discussed with different opinions, this opinion and that opinion. That's fine, but not a Torah which is being mocked or ridiculous. And we see this in the next story also, which we run to. Now this is a story which is an end of a long story, which I don't have time to tell the whole background of the story. But there was it's again Rabbi Yochanan, and he had a student who was not, he was both a student and a friend of his. And there's a long story about how this student died. It was under very tragic circumstances, and uh, but that we can study another time. In any case, Rabbi Shimon ben Lachish, who was his partner, they were always studying together. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, who's called Reish Lakish. And when he died, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, although it was after a tremendous argument with Rabbi Yochanan, he was so pained, he was so sad that he lost him. And the rabbis didn't know what to do after Rabbi Yochanan was just sitting, being sad, being in such a deep grief, having lost Reish Lakish. So they said, all the other rabbis said, what shall we do? Who will go to calm? Who will go to comfort Rabbi Yochanan's mind, comfort him over his loss? They said, okay, we'll send a very, very great rabbi, Rabbi Elazar ben Pdat. We will send him because he is very sharp-minded. And Rabbi Yochanan likes sharp-minded people. He's very clever. He will be the substitute for Reish Lakish. So Rabbi Elazar ben Pdat went and sat in front of Rabbi Yochanan. And with regard to every single thing which Rabbi Yochanan was teaching, Rabbi Elazar ben Pdat would say to him, I have a ruling which was taught in a Braita. Braita was from the time of the Mishnah, right before him, from the earlier sages. I can prove your point. I can support your opinion from a Braita, from the Mishnah times, so I can strengthen. You're absolutely right. I can strengthen your opinion with what was said amongst the earliest and greater sages. Rabbi Yochanan said to him, do you really think that you can come and be a substitute for Reish Lakish, for the son of Lakish? In my discussion with the son of Lakish, when I would state something, he wouldn't come and tell me that there was a Braita. No, when I would state something, he would raise 24 difficulties against me. He would attack me from this side, from that side, from every side, in attempt to disapprove my claim. And I would give him 24 answers. And in this way, the halakha would, and the study and the learning would become broadened and clarified, and we would come deeper and deeper into everything by the whole time challenging each other. And yet you say to me there is a ruling which is taught in a Braita that supports your opinion. Do I not know that what I said is good? Being rebutted by Reish Lakish, being told off, being challenged, being questioned, being rebutted by Reish Lakish, that served a purpose. You're bringing proof to my statements that doesn't serve any purpose, doesn't broaden my mind, just to tell me that I'm right. Fine, okay. So the story ends very sad. Rabbi Yochanan went around rending his clothing, weeping and saying, "Where are you, son of Lachish? Where are you, son of Lachish?" Rabbi Yochanan screamed until his mind was taken from him. He went insane. The rabbis prayed and requested for God to have mercy on him and take his soul. And God took his soul, and Rabbi Yochanan died. There was nothing, no purpose anymore for him to live. There was nothing anymore in this world for him to live for. This is a very sad ending, but it gives you the whole strength and point of what is the point of challenging, of studying, of being challenged, of asking questions, of going into depth, of broadening your mind, of broadening your Torah by having different opinions. We have an expression which is not a new expression. It's brought the first time in about 1,000 years ago. That there are 70 different faces to the Torah, 70 different ways of explaining the Torah, and this is the way the Torah was given in order to broaden. And all the words of the Torah are meant to be discussed and meant to be both intellectually challenging, but also in substance. To be the Torah is supposed to be developed in every generation, in every classroom, in every country, in every bet midrash are supposed to be developed, and this is what we are doing now on Shavuot, when we accept the Torah, when we accept it with love, with care. This is how we care for the Torah, not by treating it as something which is just wholly putting it into Aron Kodesh, which we do, into a holy cupboard, but by taking it and studying it and dealing with it and questioning it, and in this way going into the depth of every word of the Torah. So this is what I could contribute with tonight, and I hope, in spite that we couldn't ask questions now, if you have a question or two, you're welcome. But
Rav Michael, I would like to step in just before Rav Meir, and you sort of both of the stories that you brought here are at the end quite. I don't know if both the tragic or very, powerful endings, but also brings forth the fact that the Torah is about life and death. So it's not just, I think, it's very, but at the other hand, it's just very difficult to think that a great rabbi like this we would pray that he would die because he's, it's difficult. And also the previous one is that it's almost like bringing forward this about life and death. But you said, is it literal? Is it not? How are we supposed to understand this?
uh, I think our sages wanted us to understand that the Torah is the Torah of life, and if we don't have, if it's taken away from us, we don't have it anything, then it's like we don't have our bread to live from. We don't have anything. If it's taken away from us, we like here Rabbi Yochanan lost his mind. He didn't have the whole basis of his existence. I doubt if it's literal, if we should take it literally, but I think that our sages told us these stories to very much stress the points made in the stories. and therefore always made them very, very dramatic, in order to tell us that this is what we're living our lives for. We are living our lives in order to be able to. I mean, we do other things also in life besides from studying Torah. But if we can't study, if we can't depthen our knowledge, then we just slowly wither away.
Yes. So, Bezrat Hashem, from this message, we take forward to the Chag of Shavuot tomorrow to come from a place of life and excitement, like you were saying, that on the other hand, that this is where we go, this is how much the oxygen that the Torah can give our soul from these stories as well. Thank you very much, Rav Michael. And Rav Meir, we pass over to you.
Thank you very much. Good evening to all of you. And thank you very much to my dear colleague, Rabbi Michael. It's very interesting what we heard just now. If I take Rabbi Yochanan as an example of someone who studies very, very in an intensive way, and that's the meaning of life to him. And if he doesn't have hard questions, he can't take it any longer. And I would like to tell you that there's almost no page in the Talmud without Rabbi Yochanan. He's there in every subject. Such a person which is so deeply dealing with the Torah, and he needs the hard questions and so on. Could he be close to us, to the other persons, men and women? Is he able? In what way should he behave towards everyone? I remember once my late father, Zichrono Livracha, he liked to play chess very much. He played very well, very, very well. And he was walking in the street, and a young man came up to him. He was a very genius chess player, and he turned to my father and he said to him, "Do you know when Botvinnik played in that way, why didn't he open in that way?" And so on. So my father listened and he answered whatever he answered. And then he told me, "Did you pay attention to the fact that he didn't say good afternoon? He didn't say shalom. He was so in his deep ideas concerning chess that he didn't even say shalom." And of course, my father wanted to say that that's a wrong way. And I would like to study together with you 3 small pieces from the Talmud to try to understand that point. What should be the way of the great giant towards every one of us. So let's start with the first story. So if we could get the text in front of us. Yes, oh, very well. And perhaps I will omit some pieces. We don't need all of it, but I will start. Okay, you're ready? And Rava said, we are now in Babylon, in Babel. Rabbi Yochanan is in Eretz Israel. It's a bit later in the generations. This Torah scholar who grows angry, it is the Torah study that angers him. It's called in the Talmud Ritcha Deoraita, the anger of the Torah. Therefore, he must be given the benefit of the doubt. As it is stated, is not my word like fire, says the Lord? Rashi explains this in the following way. He says you have to have an understanding of this angry scholar. You have to have consideration with him, since the Torah causes him to be angry. Now, why does the Torah makes him angry? One of the commentators in the 13th century, the Meir in Provence, says it's because the Torah is so much with him. The Torah, with all its clear ways of how one should behave, and when he sees the bad behavior of the people he meets, he becomes angry. And there are other explanations also. But anyhow, that's his way. And sort of, you should understand him. The Gemara says, understand him. That's the way it is with this man. That is what Rava says. Then comes another scholar along, Rav Ashi. And Rav Ashi said, any Torah scholar who is not hard as iron is not a Torah scholar, as it is stated, and as a hammer that breaks rock in pieces. Here we hear something else. Not only should we understand his way of being angry, but it's kind of a condition of being a chacham. And he should be hard as iron. Perhaps in order to be able to educate the community so they will follow his teachings. But so he is a bit more than Rava. And then comes along Ravina, and he ends it. So if I omit a few, yes, that's it. If you see at the bottom, there, bottom of the page, that's fine. Ravina said, and even so, one is required to teach himself to act gently, as it is stated, and remove anger from your heart, and put away evil from your flesh. Ravina rejects what the two Torah teachers or Talmud teachers said here. He says you shouldn't have consideration about his being angry. And of course, it's not a condition to be a chacham that you are angry. And this harshness should be effective in order to educate people. But Ravina says, no, it's the other way around. In that way, it doesn't get into the hearts of his followers. And one could also say, perhaps it seems to be the plain meaning here, every person should remove his anger from his heart. Everyone, and the scholar also. A Jew shouldn't lead his people being angry, because anger is a bad trait for everyone. I will return to a general explanation of this later. And the conclusion of these rows are that Ravina, what he says, there is no reason to remain with an understanding of a scholar's anger, and certainly not of it being a condition. He should teach himself to be gentle. And one of the great commentators says that this is the conclusion of this part. Don't use the term ritcha d'oraita, the anger of the Torah, as something positive. It's not. You should be gentle towards people. That's the first piece. And now we'll go to the next one. Yes. Here we are in the beginning of, I didn't put it here, in the beginning of Masechet Sotah, and Daf Hey, and it's a long piece speaking about the bad trait of haughtiness and arrogance, which is, according to the Talmud, one of the very, very bad traits, and they speak about it, and then all of a sudden we hear the following. Rav Chia bar Ashi says, that Rav says, he says it's in the name of Rav. I go to the text. A Torah scholar must have 1/8 of arrogance. Shmona shebishminit. It's true that it's a bad trait, but a scholar, a Talmid Chacham, he should have something of it. That is what Rav Chia bar Ashi says. And Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yeshua, said, and this small measure of arrogance crowns him with the horn, which is on the top of the husk. It's a sort of kind of, it's like a crown for him. It's the right thing to do. Rava, which is the next one here, he seemed to have kind of a question mark. Rava said that a Torah scholar who has arrogance, is haughty, should be excommunicated. Excommunicated is that's a very hard thing to say. It's wrong. And one who doesn't have the arrogance at all should also be excommunicated as well. He's sort of in the middle. But he also seems to say that a small amount of it might be the right thing to do. And now we come, it's similar to the last piece we saw beforehand, because now someone comes along and he sort of rejects all that what was said beforehand. And the one is Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. He is one generation later. And he says, even a Torah scholar should not have any arrogance or any part of arrogance that is not even 1/8 of 1/8. And I read now the text itself. Is it a small matter that is written with regard to arrogance? Everyone that is proud of heart is an abomination of the Lord. It's very, very, very bad. And that is the way this piece ends. And it's, as I said, it's very similar to the one beforehand. And one of the commentators in the Middle Ages, he says that the halacha is according to Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, who rejects the whole idea. Pride is not the right thing for a Talmid Chacham. And that's the way the discussion ends. And so we have 1 and 2 that are very similar. The first one talked about being angry, and the second one about being arrogant. And now we come to a third piece. So we see if the text, yes, very good. Very good, okay. We are still in Masechet Sotah, but many pages later. And Rabbi Abahu says, at first, I would say, I was humble. It's not very humble to say that, but anyhow, that's what he said. I thought I was humble. I was not a haughty man, but I was humble. Since I saw that Rabbi Abba of Akko, from the city of Akko, himself started one reason, and his interpreter started one reason. I will read it to the end and explain. And he didn't mind. I say I'm not humble. So now let's explain it. Rabbi Abahu, he comes to say let's explain the following way. In those days, the scholar spoke silently, and he had someone who was like a loudspeaker for him. He's here called Amora. It's not Amora, which is usually means a Talmud teacher or one of the sages of the Talmud. That is called here Amora, and he is his loudspeaker. So he listens what the Chacham has to say, and then he says with a loud voice. But in this case, he apparently also understood what was studied. He had a deep understanding of it. And he changed what was said by the sage. He sort of listened to him, and then he said something else. And then the Talmud says that Rabbi Abba didn't care. He was humble, and he didn't start to rebuke this Amora. He said, okay, he says what he said. I said what I said, and I don't say anything. And then Rabbi Abba understood that is being humble. He doesn't say anything about that. Now, wow. Now, there's an interesting discussion among the commentators. Did he really not care? Rabbi Abba had studied day and night with true intellectual effort and with a pure heart. He had reached his results, And to him, this was a Torah emet. This was a true Torah. And now this Amorah, his loudspeaker, comes along and changes it. To Rabbi Abba, these are true words of the eternal Torah. And because of humbleness and in order to refrain from offending the Amorah, Rabbi Abba keeps quiet. One of the commentators, Maharsha Shmuel Edels, rabbi in Krakow in the 16th century, he says that if the Amorah's explanation was less good than that of Rabbi Abba, his original idea, of course he had to react. But in this case, this Mr. Loudspeaker, he said a better explanation than that of Rabbi Abba, and therefore he could have been offended personally between the two of them, of the Amorah, showing off that he's actually greater Chacham than Rabbi Abba, and still Rabbi Abba did not react. Now, it doesn't seem to be the right understanding of the text, but the Maharsha says so because he doesn't think the Rabbi Abba could let his true Torah words being distorted in that way without reacting. But I think that the truth of the matter is that the text itself doesn't hint in any way of such a limitation of its words. He said what he said, and Rabbi Abba didn't react. Again, Rabbi Menachem Meiri in Provence in the 13th century, he says clearly the following: even though the Amorah, instead of let his master's word being heard, he changes them. He did change them. And anyhow, Rabbi Abba didn't react. Now, the truth is that the world lost Rabbi Abba's true, genuine Torah words. They are not here any longer because this Amorah said something else, less valuable. That we lost, but we gained a wonderful example of how the Talmid Chacham should act. And I would like to explain all these three pieces in one way. The essential ideas of the Torah can't be lost when teaching and learning that very Torah, that very same Torah. Rabbi Akiva says that the great principle of the Torah is to love your neighbor. Hillel says that the essence of the Torah is what you hate, you shouldn't do to your neighbor. Rambam, many generations later, says that the Torah has come to us in order to make peace in the world. So if that is the essence of the Torah, how can we say, yes, but the Talmid Chacham, he is allowed to be angry because he so studies it so intensively, he can't take that people don't behave the way they should behave, and he should be a bit arrogant, and he should react when someone says his words in another way. That is what we might think it should be. No, because then the essence of the Torah is not here any longer. The essence of the Torah is to be gentle to another person, not to be angry with him. Is to considerate that perhaps I don't react now. He said what he said. I don't react, even if I lose my true understanding of the Torah towards the audience sitting here. My dear friends, sometimes there is kind of a discussion whether man is the center of everything, is the focus of everything, and that is usually what humanism in the Middle Ages wanted to say, or do we say that the Creator is the center of everything? I think that the Jewish answer to that discussion is that Hashem, of course, is behind everything. He's the Creator. He makes the creation being existing. But He, Hashem Yitbarach, commands us to put man in focus. So man is in focus. And therefore, it can't be that a very honorable represent of the Torah, the Talmid Chacham, should relate to men with anger or arrogance, and that he should give over this wonderful heritage by causing a man or a woman pain or something like that. And therefore, in the above-mentioned cases, it ends with rejecting any kind of harshness in the behavior of the Torah scholar towards people that he meets or that he teaches. And Rambam says clearly in Hilchot Deot, in the 5th chapter, that a Chacham should never, ever cause anyone in the world any discomfort. So this is the Torah. This is the Torah of ours, where the message of the Torah, of course, should be studied the whole of our life. But on the other hand, the message of the Torah is that a human being is in the center, is in the focus, and you should behave gently towards everyone. I would like to end with a story that you might have heard, and that's okay. Rabbi Mital, Zichrono Livracha, when he wanted to start his yeshiva in Alon Shvut, I don't remember how many years ago it was, but after the 6-day war sometime, some students came to him and they said, we are interested to come to your yeshiva, but what is the idea of your yeshiva? So he said, I'll tell you a story about the first rabbi of the Lubavitch movement, the Chabad movement, Balatanya, Shner Zalman Miladi. He was once in a place together with his son, and his son was also a great learned person. He became a great rabbi. And Balatanya was sitting in an inner room, and his son was sitting studying in the middle. And in the outside room, there was a child, a baby, sleeping. And they were studying, the two of them. And all of a sudden, Balatanya comes from the inner room, and he passes his son, who sits in front of his great Gemara studying, and he goes out and he takes up this baby who's crying, and he calms the baby and puts it back again, and then he comes to his son, and he sits down next to him, and he closes the Gemara, and he says to him, if you study Torah and you don't hear a child crying, there's something wrong with your Torah. Someone studying Torah must be able to listen to when a person weeps, when he's crying, when he has tears. And that's the essence of Torah studying. That is, Torah studying should be that you are able to relate to man or woman in a gentle way. And that is why in the case of Rousseau, I think that another way that could be understood, if someone studies so intensively, perhaps he's angry. He doesn't think all the time of the others because he is with his Torah all the time. Like this young man who came up to my father, and he was all the time with different chess plays. But no, that's not the way. And that is what I wanted to show you tonight. What the persons who teach Torah, what should be their way towards the people they meet. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Rab Meir. Rab Michael, did you want to add something?
I want to just a comment to that. The general message is very much very crucial and important. The question is, I have a question to Rab Meir, because there is, especially in the last story, and we talked a little bit about it when we were learning together on Sunday. But there is a when he tells his Torah, and the one who is to be the, as you called it, the loudspeaker, he comes up with something which is not the correct. Do you not see a limitation to that? If he comes with a Torah which is false, which is wrong, which is which, so you can say, well, he teaches the students something else, that he teaches them not to embarrass the loudspeaker and so on. That's an important Torah to teach the students. But there is there no limitation to that? If he really anything wrong can be passed on to the students, and you shouldn't rebuke, and you shouldn't find a way to tell the students that this is not the Torah, this is not what I meant, this is not the halakha.
Yes, that's a good question. But I think, of course, if what you probably mean to say, if this Mr. Loudspeaker should say, and therefore you're allowed to work on Shabbat, and therefore you should eat tarif, and therefore you can steal from your neighbor and whatever. That of course would be something that perhaps even the audience wouldn't accept. And I think therefore we are not there. I think that's not even a limitation. But I agree if that would be something like that. But a different understanding of a halakha, and it might be even the result might be that the halakha would be different according to what this man taught the audience when he sort of said the words of Rabbi Abba. But yeah, that's true. If it would be extreme in that way, I think we were not talking about that. You're right. But the problem would be not to be there all the time at the extreme case, and then to make it broad, and then you have killed the story. So you anyhow.
Okay.
I think it's wonderful the two shiurim that we had and how they complement each other. In the fact that the Torah is Torat Chaim, it's the Torah of our life. But in that sense, it can also overtake us to the place that we don't see the reality around us, and the Talmidim as well. And if I may add to the Talmidei Chachamim who gave the Shiurim here, just a reflection that as we go to Shavuot, we have Anochi Hashem Elokecha. We have the first commandment, which is I am your God, and there's nothing but me, which is the first shiur that we heard from Rav Michael. But then the second is Lo Elohim Acherim Al Panai, and our sages teach us that anger is idol worship. In that sense, that if you're completely filled with so much, it could start from the first, but then it turns into something that everything around you is blind to you. You're no longer not only connected to the students, you're no longer connected to the Torah and to Hashem. So, if I may add, from that, looking at the Aseret Dibrot, and to say, and for each of us to think, what is the Torat Chaim that we want to connect to? How is the Torah our lifeline, and how does it connect us to everyone around us, in our community and in our surroundings, as well, which is really what we can take with us towards the Chag. So thank you all so much for joining, and Bezrat Hashem, wishing everyone Chag Sameach and Shabbat Shalom, and thank you once more to Rav Meir, Rav Michael, that you took your time on Erev Chag to be with us and to give us this Torat Chaim. So thank you all. Erev Tov. And
Thank
for
you very
those in the
much.
Nordics who do not yet have sunset, you still have the last Sfirat HaOmer in front of you. So don't forget. The last one, I won't give the secret of what it is, but you can count 7 times 7, and then you'll know where we have reached. And then tomorrow night will be Shavuot. Laila Tov, thank you, Rav Meir, once again. Chag Sameach and Shabbat Shalom to you all.
Thank you very much, Rav Moshe
Chag
David.
Sameach. Shabbat
Thank you very
Shalom.